Everybody please rise for hosting callers.
Prepare to post. Post. Recover. Center face. All uniform personnel, present arms. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, arms. Honor guard, about face. Forward, march.
So for you volunteers out there, you really want to listen to this next presentation. Her name is Haley Blankenship now. A lot of you might remember her as Haley Bryant. She is now the executive secretary of the Board for Volunteer Firefighters. So she can answer all your questions. Here is Haley Blankenship. So, how is everyone tonight? Good. Good to see all your familiar. So how many of you are familiar with what the Board for Volunteer Firefighters is? Glad to see a few hands there. So for those of you that aren't familiar, we are the workers' comp and pension system for the state's volunteer firefighters, reserve police officers, and EMTs. We process all your medical plans for any time you get injured on this job, and when you turn 60, you can get a pension from us. It's not a lot, but you can get up to $300 a month or a lump sum amount. So once everyone kind of has that packet of information, I'm going to do a quick benefits outline. Kind of just go over a few things, and if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them out because I'm here for answer.
Yeah, so
60 is the minimum age and then 55. So it looks like pretty much everyone has one. So the first green sheet is the benefit outline. It talks about the cost for disability coverage and how the pension system works. I'm going to kind of focus on the pension plan. The department pays an annual fee for you guys each year. And from that, you guys can receive benefits. The pension is vested after 10 years of service, so as long as you meet your department requirements for participation, so you're coming to training, you're going to calls, you're doing your shifts, you're being on call if that's needed, you'll meet the requirements. And each payment that is put in for you is multiplied by 10 and then added $50, giving you a base pension amount. You can start drawing that pension at age 60, and then you get the maximum benefit at 65. So once you do 10 years of service, you vested it, you get the maximum at 25 years of service. So there's about a $300 maximum for a monthly amount, and anything less than that, you can receive a lump sum payment. So you get a one-time payment, get up to about $6,000 on that. So it's worth it.
Next year, 60 for me. I have got 25 years in a few years ago. Will this affect me when I turn 65, or can I just keep on? Like I'll get $100 some bucks a month, and I get $300 a month when I turn 65.
So once you start drawing it, that's the amount that you'll receive. So if you're going to continue to volunteer, you would want to just wait until 65 to draw it out.
Okay.
But you can draw it before that, and you can continue to volunteer under a retire-rehire program. So what that means is you would go participate in it until you're 65 though. You're going to be 65, collecting your retirement for 3 months, and be completely separated from the department within that 3 months. And then you're eligible to come back and continue volunteering.
Cool.
So,
something to think about. Thank you.
So that's kind of the green page. The next page is a little bit simpler outline of the same benefits that we offer. We have the workers' compensation benefits as well. So if you're injured on the job and you can't go to your regular employer, we will reimburse for that. So that's something as well. There is a line of duty death benefit that all volunteers are eligible for. If something were to happen and you pass away as a result of an injury for your volunteer service, there's a death benefit of $214,000. Your spouse is then eligible for a monthly check of $1,800 and change, and then any dependents also receive an additional amount on that. So it's kind of the white page. The following page is blue. It is activities. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I assume that on pension benefits, paragraph 4, 3C3 should really be 20 to 24 years.
Yes, my apologies. So we mentioned on section 3 of point C on the pension benefits, our pension brackets are divided into 4 different sectors: 10 to 14 years, then 15 to 19, 20 to 24, and you get the maximum after 25 years. So I'll make sure to correct that. The blue page talks about activities that are covered and not covered through us. So we cover all of your drill and training, all of your emergency response. Anytime you're on shift, on calls, anything that happens there is covered. Work in or about the quarters. So if you're assigned to do some work outside, maybe painting or maintenance on any building, that is covered. And then as long as everything is secondary to the firefighter duties, which here pretty much is evening compensation as part of your job. And then physical training. As long as the department has an SOP stating that physical fitness is required, we'll cover that fitness. The only thing that we don't cover is any competitive activities. So I know pickleball is a big one here. We wouldn't cover an injury that happened on pickleball. Football, basketball, and then social activities. Unless that social activity directly relates to the benefit of the department, we don't cover it. So a good example of something we don't cover is the stair climb, Seattle and Portland. If you have members participating in that and they get hurt, we don't cover those injuries. The following white page is the training and participation requirements. Do you guys have higher requirements in the state government for pension participation? The 10% of calls, 10% of training. Okay. Oh, yeah. So the state has a minimum participation requirements. The state's minimum is 10% of training or 20 hours of drill, whichever is less. So either 10% or 20. Last page is a simplified outline for the line of duty death benefit. We get a lot of questions about what's available if someone is to pass away. So this kind of explains there's a $214,000 death benefit if proven by a medical provider that it was a result of their firefighter duties. Again, there's a spouse benefit of $1,855 a month plus $500 for any dependent on that. The last page is our pension tables. So you'll notice on there, there's kind of a shaded area in the first 2 tables, and then like 2 lines on the third. Those are the amounts that are lump sums. And if you want those amounts, then you have to call us and calculate them. They're based on factors provided to us by the state actuary. They change pretty frequently, so we don't give them out just in case the numbers change. We don't want people to have incorrect dollar amounts. So that's why those are shaded. Otherwise, if you take the number of years of service you have and look at that bracket, you can look at the age that you are and the number of payments that you have contributed. You can probably get that number. You can either call us for it, we'll have to give you that, or Linda might have it on there as well. And then kind of get an idea of what you would receive for your pension amount. The other thing that Linda wanted me to talk about was if you guys are injured, what to do in the event if you go to get to a medical provider. We have a sample letter that we provide to the volunteers. It's on our website to give to any provider that you're going to see. Because we're an L&I-like agency, they get really confused that we're not actually L&I, but we pay all the same amounts that L&I does. So we always recommend giving that letter to a provider, and it kind of explains to them the process. We have to have all of our claims run through the local board before we can approve any payment. So when you guys go in, we ask that you give the letter to the doctor and then give them the department address so they know where to send the bills. At that point, they'll send all the bills back to the department, and then they go through the local board for approval, and then they come to us for payment. So if you guys give them your individual or personal address, cell phone number, they will call you if you're not getting payment, and we won't hear anything about it because we don't know that it hasn't been approved by a local board yet. On that same note, it's really important to report any injury to us. You guys have to report an injury to us within the 90-day period on the accident report card, and then have the full accident report. Linda has it. We have to get that within the 90-day period, otherwise the claim will close after a year. We have to pay a bill within that year to keep the claim open, and then it's a lifetime claim. Kind of on that same note, we don't have any claim numbers, so if they ask you for that, we'll go off your social security number. So that's the only thing that we use to reference it. We don't have claim numbers. We will just tell them that we use your social security number. So if they ask for that, that's something that we do. And then if they have any questions, give them our phone number. We're in the process right now of revamping our claims process. So we're going to create a new, more streamlined letter and create cards that people can use in the event that they have an injury and they have to go to a provider. That kind of better explains the process to them because they get really confused. They don't understand that we are workers' comp, but we're not LNI, but we're also not private insurance. So it's kind of weird for them. So on that note, there are 4 of us in our office. So we're a tiny staff, and we have a huge amount of volunteers. We have about 11,500 active volunteers right now, just shy of 6,000 active pensioners, and we house records for about 60,000 inactive or inactive volunteers. So with a staff of 4, we process all of these claims and we do everything. We don't contract with outside agencies. So feel free to call us. We're there to answer your questions. Sometimes we might have to call you back if we don't have an answer right away. But there's only 4 of us, so we answer the phone every time. Pretty cool.
You're based here in Olympia, correct?
Yes, we are downtown Olympia, a couple blocks off from the Capitol campus. We share a building with the fire commissioners and fire chiefs. We're in the basement. We get a lot of visitors, so feel free to stop by. It's always exciting to see people.
As an aging firefighter, I worry more about cancer popping up. Are these things that we would be covered for if it forces paid into it?
So we've talked a lot about covering presumptives, and obviously it's a huge issue in the fire service nationwide. The way our agency sits, because we can't require volunteers to get annual physicals, which is not cost feasible for us to cover it. It's not necessarily feasible for departments to send you out for the same intensive physical that a career firefighter would get. So because of that, we're not currently able to cover presumptives. Talk about it. We're trying to determine a way. If you need our contact number, Linda has it. We also have a website, ddfs.wa.gov. Really complex. You can type it into Google. It comes right up. Call us. Our records aren't currently available online on an individual basis because it's all done by Social Security number. So if you want to know where you're at for service years, maybe payments, what your pension is looking like, give us a call. We're really honestly happy to answer any questions that you have and make sure everything's accurate because people make errors and your records will be off of it. Cool. Thanks for having me up tonight.
Alrighty, I'll start off, I believe it was April or May, had a backing incident down at 1-3 with brush 1-3. My partner was over 3 bays over checking the aid bag, checked over the brush unit, got out, performed a 360, garage door was open, checked all around it, went to jump back in it, put a reverse back into the bay, and that was when new garage door timed out and started dropping. Right then is when I noticed in my mirror that it started coming down, but the back of that brush rig's taller, so I didn't see it until I barely caught the 2 bottom door panels, which would have been avoided had a spotter been used for backing back into that bay, but didn't want to bother them because they were busy doing something, but I should have bothered them. So I will read the policy for our backing, which is policy 3.13. Department recognizes that backing emergency vehicles is made hazardous by the fact that the driver cannot see much of where he or she intends to go. The department recommends that whenever possible, drivers should avoid backing, as the safest way to back up the vehicle is to not back it up at all. When it is necessary to back up any departmental vehicles, all drivers shall follow one of the two following measures. Section B, the department's first choice of backing procedures is that before any vehicle is put into reverse and back, that a spotter be put in place near the rear of the vehicle. Spotter should be safely positioned so that the emergency vehicle driver can see them at all times. If at any time the emergency vehicle driver loses sight of the spotter, he or she shall stop immediately until the spotter makes himself or herself visible again. If conditions exist that make use of spotters impossible, all drivers, before attempting to back up any fire department vehicle, will make a circle of safety to see that no person or persons are directly behind the vehicle or in its intended path of travel. All equipment is secured and that all compartment doors are securely closed. Any physical obstructions are moved out of the way. The emergency vehicle driver should also note all potential obstructions in the intended path of travel, i.e. garage door or whatever else may time out, but it would have been completely avoided had I used a spotter and not felt like I was going to bother somebody. Gone and grabbed my partner to safely back the vehicle back into the bay and obviously not cause damage to the station. Review of policy 3.13 for our backing policies and procedures. Any questions? Hold on.
After the incident, what did you do?
Contacted the shift officer immediately. So make sure if there is an incident with any vehicle, any damage done to anything, make certain obviously contact your officer. Go up the chain of command as soon as you can to report it and fill out an incident report. And then make sure that's filed immediately as well.
I'm just curious, did your coworkers know you were going to back that way?
They hadn't given me warning that I was. No, they didn't know.
Have we looked at, especially for the smaller rigs where you don't have a full crew, backup cameras?
I have not. I know our aid units have them, but at the same time, backup cameras unfortunately do not present a very large picture. Typically with the fisheye lens, don't present a very good picture of truly what's going on all around the vehicle 360. And I don't think it would have stopped an overhead obstruction that was coming downward, like that garage door. I don't know if that would have been spotted except for by someone that was actually spotting back there. Any other questions? That will be it.
Thank you, Justin. So, yeah, I think that's a good comment. Happens to the best of us. I think there's a saying that circulates often in this agency and many others. It's those who have and those who will. I don't know who was here in the Little Rock days when you were required to stop out there and, if you didn't have a backer, you laid on the horn until you got someone. You can talk to the Little Rock Insurance Company, the Rochester Insurance Company, and the West Thurston Insurance Company, and they'll tell you that our largest loss is from back. It's completely preventable. Now, there are a number of times when you're going to be in tight spots, right? That you have two spotters, front and back. If you have that luxury, sometimes you don't. We understand that sometimes getting to and from in and out, things happen. It's cost of doing business. But as Mr. Tagani said, rarely is there a good excuse when you're Thank you for that presentation. So, our next policy review. There are a number of reasons why we are reviewing this policy. First of all, you need to know that this is probably one of the largest policies that we have. And the title of it is Response to Emergency and Non-Emergency Incidents. It's a policy that is required for the department to have. And if you go through it and you read it, it will point out a number of different safeguards that you should be taking if certain things occur. There is a bomb threat. There is an earthquake. It gives you step-by-step, certainly by no means complete, but it is a guideline for you to go by. If you recall about, I'll say a year ago, maybe it's been 2 years ago, there was quite a bit of feedback from the company officers, and the company officers said, hey, we are seeing quite a few more violent patients, typically related to drug overdose. And we were having some challenge with getting law enforcement to respond to some of those incidents. And at that time, we changed our policy. We revised our policy to include drug overdose and really create a standoff. If you find yourself in a situation, your gut feeling says it is not safe for me to go into that scene, what do you do? Anyone, what do you do? You don't go into the scene, right? You stage. In fact, you stay well away. That has never changed. What we did is we just said it's okay for you not to go in. If it's a drug overdose, you have to start gathering as much information as possible. In some cases, maybe you feel like it's okay. You can go ahead and proceed into the scene. And of course, we don't know oftentimes until we get there. And then sometimes even when we're there, we don't know, right? We are there. We went there because we thought everything would be okay. Chaos. Something happens. Now you feel at risk. What do you do? Back out. That's right. You back out. Everyone, that's clear, right? Everyone's aware of that. Really, there's no change. If we have any question in our mind, if the incident is secure or not, and all of us can, start to recall these incidents that we've been at and where we thought everything was okay, or law enforcement told us, in fact, the scene is secure. That apparently sometimes is kind of a loose term for them. Secure, I guess, if you have a vest on and you're carrying a gun. Maybe not so much if you're a firefighter with no protection. So that's the important thing. Obviously, do not proceed to any incident. Gut feeling. You don't feel good about it? Listen to your gut. Something happens, you back out. Policy has never changed, right? We've just added to it. We've given you complete control of being able to just stand by, stage. If law enforcement says they're not going to respond, well, guess what? We're to stand on. So, I said we revised it. We did some very basic revisions to that before, but here's what's happening. And, in some cases, you can say that other agencies have progressed towards this quicker. And, okay, that might be the case. I have been on the fence about this for a long time. It's not until there has been a pretty big tactical change in law enforcement and in rescue teams. And so now I want to go through and I want to tell you how we are going to develop that capability. So how many people remember Columbine? I mean, I know all of you remember the name and so on. If you spent much time at all looking at Columbine, I think it's still potentially defined as the worst high school massacre in the United States, but maybe in the world. Now, certainly not the worst massacre, because Virginia Tech and other locations, I'll say recently, have taken on that height. Columbine, however, was somewhat of a shift for law enforcement to start thinking about what could they have done differently. We do it. We have the after action review and we say, okay, but that didn't go exactly like we wanted to. What are we going to do different? Law enforcement started this push. And so what did they do in Columbine? If you looked into that, they had hundreds of law enforcement officers show up on that high school campus. And in fact, they blocked the roads. So manpower wasn't an issue, but they did what they were trained to do. They established a perimeter, right? And they denied entry. They did all of those things that they were taught to do. They assembled a SWAT team. There were a number of programs developed that I actually took a large part in the state of Washington related to. One of the big issues was law enforcement was told that the shooters were in the library. The cops didn't know where the library was. They didn't know where to begin. So a number of tools came out in order to make improvements so they could neutralize the threat. But this continued to occur, right? It continued, these incidents continued to occur where an active shooter would create a mass casualty incident and then in most cases take their own life. The tactic change then for law enforcement is to neutralize it at all costs. If I am one guy with a gun, I am going to go towards the shooting and I'm going to attempt to neutralize that shooter. That's the way that I'm going to save lives if I'm a cop. It's not by staying outside, waiting for a SWAT team to develop, controlling, setting up a perimeter. That is no longer the tactic. They don't operate that way. And they'll tell you that. As they began to shift, they asked us to shift, right? I was at, it's probably been 10 years ago or thereabouts at a drill, law enforcement and fire, doing a drill at Black Hills High School. And there was a medic unit there. And we were all standing at the door. One of the cops said, hey, you know, something that we're talking about doing is trying to get EMS personnel to go in with us. And one of the medics said, that'll never happen. Well, guess what? It's happened. This is why. If we stay outside and do what we have been trained to do, stage. I'm not telling you that we just went over our policy. Nothing is changing about that policy. In the extraordinarily rare event where we have an incident with an active shooter, we are going to save lives, not by staging, but by having rescue teams available with immediate life-saving equipment to go in and with an armed officer into a non-active zone, into a warm zone, an attempt to save lives. How do we do it? We do it with a very limited amount of tourniquets. So what we all know these people need, they need a surgeon, right? Definitive care for them is a surgeon if they've been shot. But what happened in Columbine, what has happened in countless incidents up until recently, where jurisdictions have begun to develop these teams, is people who were shot may have been viable, but because no one went in and got them out, they bled out and died. So our opportunity to save lives is operating in that warm zone. The warm zone, again, is defined as an area where there is no active shooting. We're not asking you to go into that environment at all. We don't want you in that environment. But we also want to develop teams that are capable of performing these types of rescue. So what's our goal? And we have been working on it. We collectively, the board, as it relates to funding, wrote a grant, received a grant from Michio's tribe for $5,000. The officers have been looking at policy, we've been looking at models of vests, and talking about how can we develop the safest deployment of rescue teams. So a lot of consideration has gone into this. Our goal ultimately is to acquire 25 vests, ballistic vests, that 6 to 8 of those will go at staffable facilities, at each staffable facility. So it's important that you understand that, again, I said it once, but I'll say it again, we will never ask you, we never want you to go into a hot zone. We don't want you to play because I have a ballistic vest on, I'm bulletproof, and I'm going to go in and save lives. It is like any other thing we do, it's a calculated risk. But first we have to run that calculation. And for us to do that, it requires unified command. It requires a law enforcement incident commander, a fire incident commander, and it requires the fire incident commander saying, okay, I agree, that's a warm zone, we'll send them. You're not going to take that direction from anyone else. So recently, it's been 6 months ago. It's pretty warm out, mid-summer. Black Hills High School, Tumwater, did a drill. And I show you this picture really kind of to look at what the cops are wearing, you know, what they look like. And most of them were off duty, and so you'll see various dress types. Some were in uniform, some were not. Let's see, we have how many people were at that drill? I know I've seen a few here. Yeah, good drill. So, you know, what I said afterwards, I mean, you can watch this whole thing occur. And, geez, you know, like clockwork, everything went fine, and there's only one thing missing. And that's about 100 beats per minute for each person that was there, right? Add 100 beats per minute to your heart rate, things changed. Everything was nice and smooth. Everything went well. So one of the things that we've been considering is trying to avoid making you look like cops when you don a vest. So tell me, glance through there and tell me who, just immediately, quickly, who looks the most like Thomas. Right. Right. And so why don't the others? I mean, there's some in that picture wearing vests, right? Why don't they look like cops? Bunker pants. Come to find out, that was an accident. It's not actually a policy that they were supposed to wear them. They just did, and you know what? We're going to make it a guideline, not necessarily a policy. There could be situations where the temperatures or other conditions could prevent that, but otherwise our goal is to make you look as much like a firefighter or not like a cop as we possibly can. Is the shooter going to take the time? Do they care? They don't. Are they going to try to read whether it's just police or rescue or fire EMS? Probably not. But we want to make sure that you are clearly differentiated. So these are our thoughts. Here's a model. There is one element that's missing from this vest, and that's a rescue handle on the back to allow us to hold people. I'm going to send it around the room. You can see it has a radio pocket, and it also has an equipment pocket for tourniquets and other items. Here is our choice of colors, and if you were to go grab me your bunker pants, it's exactly this color, right? No one else in Thurston County is using this color. I think that's good. There's really some loss control there, but there's immediate recognition probably what person the personality. In fact, it will end up being because the Molly, which is this black material right here that you pin everything to, has to be black. And the radio pouch and the equipment pouch also has to be black. So it will be sandstone and black, similar to our bunker, right? Sandstone, black keys. The vest is rated a level 3A. That is the same level of protection that the majority of law enforcement is wearing in our area. The vendor tells me that there's only one jurisdiction that is wearing a protection level lower, and that's actually law enforcement wearing a protection level lower, which is 2A. So 3A. It is the same as law enforcement, but does that make us bulletproof?
Well, I mean,
And 10, only 10. I can tell you what, I tried that one on, and I think size-wise, that one's supposed to fit. There are a lot of areas that are unprotected by that vest. That was my first thought, right? I say that because the last thing we want you to feel is that somehow throwing that vest on protects you beyond its limits. It will take most Magnum rounds, rifle rounds, not so much, right? So you are still at risk, but let's face it, you're also at risk for many other things. Blunt objects, fists, knives, nothing on that garment is going to protect you necessarily from a violent incident. So obviously our first choice is unless, of course, we have assembled one of these teams in a warm zone, if we're donning it otherwise, our first choice would be to back out if we find a escalating situation. So this is what our policy now says. It says that it may be indicated when you're asked to stage, right? If you're asked to stage, that should be to start thinking, do I need to don my vest? Who ultimately is going to make that call? Yep, the ranking firefighter or the officer is going to make that call. We have looked at it from a standpoint of having a really somewhat of a non-descriptive term. We don't necessarily want the officer over the radio saying, don your ballistic vest, right? Probably doesn't sound real good. And so what our code word is full PPE. Now, what does that mean in other environments? Full PPE. Fireground, means something completely different. Are we ever going to wear that garment in a fire environment? Good. In most cases, we are going to find ourselves in an EMS response capacity. And so the term that we've selected to date is full PPE. That should be your clue that the officer is calling for you to don your vest if you're staging, and the officer is full PPE. That's what they're telling you. They're not telling you to put your button coat on, right? Mask up. So, one of the other things that we have decided to do is to have a review of any time these are called into use. We're going to review what occurred. What we don't want. We don't want, because I really don't know how they're going to look, but let's just suggest that they look cool, right? And we want to wear them. Grandma Smith is fell out of bed. Could be. Let's just put them on. Just because they look cool, let's put them on. That's the last thing we want to occur. They have a very specialized use, and obviously the intent is to keep you as safe as we possibly can. So, in this case, full PPE means bunker pants, vest, and there's some discussion about fire helmets. In certain instances, so far the comments have been, geez, I can't run very fast in my bunker boots. If you go through many of the policies, they'll talk about, slow is, I forget the term right now, it's in, what is it, slow is smooth is fast? Yeah. You shouldn't be running. In fact, if you go through the Thurston County Medic one, MCI plan just got adopted. There are very limited changes to it, but some of the things that have changed is terminology and movements with law enforcement. And so if they call for a dining formation, those types of things. So we have trained on those, we understand what that means and so on.
often they have to be changed out?
Well, here's an interesting issue. We have, the board has allocated funding. We have grant dollars. And so we are going to spend, let's say, $20,000 to $25,000 to acquire the number of vests that we need to get started. So, as I said, the goal is to put 6 to 8 at the staffable locations. The people on duty are going to find one when they come on duty that properly fits them. And I'm told that, you know, if you have a choice between one that's too big and one that's too large, you always go for the one that's too big, provides greater protection. Hopefully, we have enough sizes at that location to properly fit everyone. There's going to be something else to move. The way that we operate, you can't just put it on the engine, right? Because it might have to go into a compartment inside an engine when you deploy the engine, or vice versa. So you're going to have to move that garment from one location to the next, just like we do to our bunker. I'm sorry. What was your question?
The warranty,
Oh, so, right, that's a major concern. So, what I'm sure the manufacturer says, and the state says, that we should replace them based on manufacturer's recommendation. Manufacturer's going to say what? Replace them as soon as you can. Right? The smart manufacturer? Yeah, absolutely. At the county chief's meeting this month, we had a discussion, and I think one of the agencies is going to ask our attorney general for a review of that. And I'm told that many of the law enforcement agencies, typically you should replace them every 5 years, but they're not, because they can't afford it, because nothing really changed with the garment. So the garment is just as protective as it was day one. And so we hopefully will try to fall in line there. I mean, initially, and try to get enough. We won't outfit every single person. We won't size every single person. It's cost prohibitive. But we will try to have enough at each station to where we can develop these rescue teams if necessary, and the people on duty will be able to put one on an engine or an aid unit and don those if necessary.
Going through the vest, are the panels removed for demonstration?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So there is no actual ballistic material there. That's just the carrier. And so that will become a little heavier. That model is the preferred model in terms of comfort. And it's not intended to be worn underneath your duty uniform. It's meant to go over your duty uniform. I'm talking to the vendor. Our vendor is also the company who is providing our Class Bs and Class, I was going to say Class A, but that's not the case always. And so we are going to take shirt sizes. And he believes that the shirt sizes we can order accordingly from the information that he has on his in his records. So next steps, we're going to size. Obviously, we have to place an order. The delivery time, we're looking at minimum 6 weeks, more like 90 days. And then we will run a drill. We will do additional training. We ask you to be part of the rescue team. You will have received the necessary training to know what it is that you need to do. In the interim, please take your time review that policy and give it, some questions. Yes.
Has there been any talk or study or anything about how these things are going to do underneath our bunker gear if we do have to go into a special fire with it on? Because 187 called, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we were sitting there at the door with the hose line with 2 SWAT guys next to them. Just curious.
Not that I'm aware of. I can tell you, if you look at NFPA, that material is not going to comply. I doubt seriously.
I just wonder, obviously it'll be under our bunker code, but I just wonder about if it raises our temperature internally.
Oh yeah,
more than,
I'm sure.
so it would lessen our operating room.
Yeah. Let's just hope we don't find ourselves there.
Again, right?
Yeah.
Again.
Questions?
Covered off the best to protect the firefighter in this situation. But from experience, we also were wearing K1 helmets.
Yeah.
And it would say fire on it.
Sure.
Because the helmet is better than fire helmet.
Yeah.
In that case.
Sure.
So I wasn't sure how far you wanted to go, for equipment wise. Maybe one pair wasn't going to be a deal.
Yeah. If revenue was not an issue, I would want to.
Sure.
In fact, maybe after we acquire enough vests, then we look at helmets, potentially look at grant from the tribe.
I just thought on it.
No, in fact, that subject came up. The reason why I suggest helmets here is, obviously, if you're going inside a structure, we might need the head protection,
Sure.
but it makes you look like a firefighter. If you go back and look at the example I used there, like Columbine, those kids' plan was much different than what actually occurred. They had planned with each of them, with a 20-pound propane bomb. Their plan, I think, was to blow the school up first, and then be at the exits and shoot people as they were coming out. There are also 99 explosive devices found in that school by two high schools. There are many very wise, terrorists, we call them, that is their plan. They have a plan for fire EMS second wave, and their intent to do harm. We will never find or implement all protective measures. I believe it's a step in the right direction, one, for your safety, and two, for us to properly calculate save lives. Right? Questions? Now, for the primary part of our safety need, the state says that we, as a group, as an employer, employee, firefighters, should have the safety meeting once a month, right? I guess so that once a month. We're working on that. What I want you guys to do, and the fact is we actually are, while on shift, at shift meetings, and hopefully throughout the course of your shift, you are talking about safety elements, after action reviews, and so on. What I want you to do, we talked about it earlier when we asked for a show of hands of how many people logged into that online meeting in July, safety meeting in July. You have to start getting used to doing that to fulfill that once a month requirement. What I'm asking the shift officers to do at their shift meetings is to do their shift meeting with this system in place, at a minimum record it. After action review of a structure fire, any other type incident you might have been on, it's important for you to also be part of that. So with this system, when you get an email that says
you can log in. I know you may not be able to, but if you are able to, log in. If you have a camera, you can watch. It's fully interactive. If not, then those meetings will be stored, recorded and stored on our training website. We are planning, our safety officer by policy is planning a safety audit. We will bring in labor and industry. We will ask them to come. That scares a lot of employers, not us, because we know that we certainly are trying the best that we possibly can and doing a pretty darn good job. Last time we invited them in, of course, there were no violations at all. They'll always have recommendations, and that's why we bring them in. We want those expert eyes to look around and say, you might want to consider doing this, this, and this. What we want from you, you are our eyes. You're operating the equipment. You are in and out of facilities, and you know what you think might be a safety hazard. On a monthly basis, we want to be able to ask you, what are they? Please tell us. And we want to be able to address them. So, give you a few seconds to think about it too. Anyone have anything that they've been thinking about? Hey, you know what? We need to pay attention to this item. It could be a safety hazard. Other than our inherent risks and dangers of what we do. Bob.
Tuesday night after PAC, I was closing up the training car and closing the window, turning the light off, coming down the stairs, and I missed it. It's so dark. I missed a step and landed on the landing on my shoulder and my neck.
Yeah.
Now, we got people walking up there, you know, with post bundles and everything else. We need to do something different with the lighting in that training car.
Is there not a light at the bottom of the stairs?
There is a light on each floor, but the light doesn't reflect well into the home,
Into the
in the stairwell.
stairwell.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You made a note of that, and you can look into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
The power is there. There's really no reason why we should be able to eliminate that better.
And a single switch operation from the first floor.
Why not?
Or them push things, whatever, anything better than what it is.
Yeah, there could be reasons why we don't want the light every floor. If you can think of that, maybe you're operating differently.
I think that's the idea, is operating in a low vis environment. If you have light switch on one floor, if it operates the entire tower, it kind of defeats the purpose. So, but there are ways around it, like you and I were talking, Bob, and you can have lights intermittently within the stairwells themselves, where you can punch them on and punch them off. And I think that might be a good alternative for now, but, yeah, I'm happy to talk with the safety officer about recommendations for
Thank you. Anyone else?
At the base of that tower, isn't there a breaker that kills everything?
yeah.
So usually my practice is come down and kill that breaker and everything's done. That way I can leave them on, you know, as you come down. Maybe put a switch to it instead of breaking it, just kill everything. That way it wasn't so scary.
The stairwell is still not good up for you.
Yeah, that's the issue, is the stairwell itself.
Okay. Anything else?
On this air compressor, can we get a valve put in? Because every time you pop it off, it's pressurized and it shoots off of there. And now,
The SCBA or the
no, just the
tank
air
in the
compressor.
EMS room?
Yeah, the tank in the EMS room,
Okay.
it comes out, plumbed on the wall right by the oxygen fill station.
Right.
Where we can use the air compressor. But not having a valve there, we can't shut it off and then bleed the air out. It just is always pressurized, so it shoots off that. And I've seen it pop off of there before and almost get somebody, so.
Okay.
I've written it up a couple times.
Don't know that? Okay. Compressor in the EMS room, a valve to bleed the pressure before removing tools. Anything else? All right, so now's a special one. Referred to as non-punitive close call recording, right? Been around for years. What's the more popular term now? Near miss, yeah. Non-punitive close call recording. So what we want to know is that idiot moment. Well, we don't want to necessarily, but we want you to share with your colleagues a mistake that you made that almost got you in trouble. Perfect. So they can learn from potentially your mistake. Non-punitive close call recording. Anyone know it?
So, I've worked days, and I don't respond to all the calls. I respond to calls when manpower is needed. Structure fires, car accidents, where we need hands. And at times when I rotate into a department vehicle, instead of taking the first new vehicle, I have the occasion to drive the white vehicle, the staff rig. Doesn't have any lights on it, there's no radio or anything. It's not really intended as a response vehicle, it's intended for us taking trips to Costco or wherever we need to go where there's not an emergency. Well, I was at Station 6, and there was a call that came out that sounded like it needed hands. And so I left Station 6, and I proceeded up I-5, get to 93rd, and I had, before I was on 93rd Avenue traveling eastbound, there was a driveway to the left of me, so I have to turn left across traffic to get into this driveway. And at this time, the whole time I'm thinking, I don't have any lights on this. I'm just driving normal like everybody else, follow the rules, I'll just get there safely. Well, there was that moment where I needed to turn left across traffic into this driveway. And I saw oncoming traffic coming, and I went ahead and made that left-hand turn because, after all, I'm fire department, and I'm running code, right? They had to slam on it, and we almost had an accident right there. I knew it was my bad. At that moment, I realized, you know what, I don't have lights on this, and I'm not operating sirens. So that was my idiot moment for the day. And so I think I lose sight of that sometimes. I've got my class B on, or maybe I've got my bunker gear on. Surely they say that, you know, if you're operating that white rig, you're not going to go, nobody knows. So they're right on top. So that was my moment.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So a couple months ago, I was down at Station 13 working with Christian Government, and we were responding to a medical unit. And at that intersection there of Highway 12 in Albany, we hit the light, and we actually had a green light. Luckily, Christian still stopped and looked both ways because there was a police officer coming down Highway 12 and blew the red light. But we couldn't hear his sirens, he couldn't hear our sirens. So we would have gotten to keep going if we continued through that green light.
Thanks, Devin. How many times have you been responding in a fire department apparatus to a MBA and have law enforcement right up behind you, and maybe even pass by numerous they feed them something.
Yes, we had a near miss on the freeway. We just cleared one scene, the vehicle fire, we left that, go up to turn around, and I think about a minute after clearing it, another semi came right through the scene, ended up killing one guy, I believe, and then crashed into 7 other vehicles.
Including a couple of semis.
And I mean, that was right behind where we were, so that's an interesting one.
So you didn't do anything wrong except your job, right?
Right. Yeah, that one was just a
Wrong place.
yeah.
There should be a packet going around. There's about 5 pages of Facebook notifications of training events for the month of October. I think it started over here. I'm not sure where it got to. So if you have it, if you can pass it along, that would be great. We have MCOs scheduled, which is multi-company operations. We have District 8 and District 6 that have committed to a couple of these. Still waiting to hear from a couple other fire departments. We had one Tuesday morning, 9 to 12. We have one coming the 17th from 9 to 12. The 18th, which is next Wednesday, that'll be an evening, 1900 to 21:30. And the 24th, which is a Tuesday evening. And it's an opportunity to get your hose drills out of the way for fourth quarter. We'll also have auto extrication demo and training for Thursday the 26th. And that'll be from 1900 to about 21. So lots going on in October. Notifications on training. I knew in the past that it's worked well, paging out and emailing. I found marginal success with that, and that's why I've decided to list the trainings on Target Solutions. So I know everybody's signing in to Target Solutions every single shift you come in because it's a really user-friendly site. That is, the announcements are listed there, and we also have a Facebook page, West Thurston RFA Training Division, which has all the announcements and events set up. I recognize not everybody's on Facebook. I get that part. So watch for the pages, watch on Target Solutions. I'm not sure that email works all that well. But I do know that how we used to do it is different from how we do it now. And it seems to have worked better now. And I'm going to continue to use that model. So if you are on Facebook, then please subscribe to that, and I'll allow you in, I promise. Thursday night drills, we were pretty successful with it during the month of August. We have to remember 10 years ago, that used to be really the way we did business. That's how we got our training done. Everybody came in on Thursday night, every single Thursday night. You could count on it. You would show up, and there would be training. That worked for a long time, but there was a long period of time that it did not work, and we abandoned it. There was about a 3 or 4 year period where we did no Thursday night training. So last year, we started dipping our toe into the water and trying it again. It wasn't on a regular basis like it used to be. And I realized that. We've done better this year, and I'm hoping that it'll pick up some steam, and next year you'll see it on a more regular basis. So bear with me, because we're just getting it off the ground again. Can't expect to have it every single Thursday night. But I think you'll see it taper off a bit during the winter months, and then come back next spring. Okay, so watch for those. Fourth quarter training is posted, and it's online. Annual training, we're getting to a point where we're getting towards the end. So look at your annual training. Please make sure that it's done by the end of the year. This is the last hands-on part of the annual training you'll have an opportunity to do, and that's the fifth. And so what I was hoping was we'd be about 80 or 90% done as a group. Right now, we're not close to that. So please pay attention to that. You still have time for the annual training, but please pay attention to it. Quarterly training, we still have some makeup to do for third quarter and fourth quarter. Just get with your company officers if you're not able, or if you aren't able to make a drill, or if you're having trouble getting it done on shift, then get a hold of me and I'll try to work a plan out for you. Target Solutions on a county level. All the training officers, we meet once a month, and we've discussed the troubles with Target Solutions and pickups. It's a very, very robust system, but it is and can be pretty overwhelming. I just invite you to spend some time on that page and explore it. Go look at community resources. Just log into it once in a great while, please. And when you're on shift, it's just a great way to keep up on training announcements. So if you're having issues still with Target Solutions, then please let me know. There's still bugs in the system, but on a county-wide level, my point is as a group, we're working on trying to make it more user-friendly. So you will see some improvements on your dashboard by the first of the year. It might be small, but it'll be better. I hope to get away from 7 clicks and reduce it to maybe 2 or 3. And then over time, we will start to improve that. But that is the platform that we're using. We don't see it changing anytime in the near future. So please try to get used to it and let me know if you have any issues with it. I do recognize too that if you aren't able to complete training within the prescribed period, for instance, third quarter, the expiration date for that is September, at the end of September. If you don't complete that training within that prescribed period, and you do it on October 2nd, and you go to record it, it's not going to give you credit for that. Let me know, and I'm able to adjust the system so that it does show it's complete for you. But I won't know until you tell me, because I don't see what you see. Okay, so just let me know. That's about it.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So there's a large group of people that are going to be renewing their EMT this year. Remember, for those people that have not got on to the new site, it's Secure Access Washington, or a SAW, SAW number that you will have to get. So it's very, it's not particularly user-friendly, as we've got other systems as well, but it's the state system that we use. So we don't have any ability to really change it. It's also kind of a system that takes a few clicks. You have to actually create an account, get it verified, then you have to go in and add what it is you're trying to do, which you're an EMS provider, so you're trying to do EMS. So it's, if you're having trouble, just let me know, but you will have to just, you know, and I'll send out the information again. We send it out every year. You won't be able to actually renew 90 days until your renewal. Most of you that are getting ready to renew, if you are expiring January 31st of 2018, think of yourself as ending your class, or ending your certification cycle is December, the end of December of this year, because it takes that 4 to 6 weeks for them to get through everything and get you your new card out. So there's that bubble time to make sure that anybody that does any type of training in the month of December or late November, you're still going to get your card in time. Now, obviously, all of your stuff has to be done by the end of December, right? So you can't do it January 1st. It's not going to count anymore. So make sure that everything is done. I also want to bring up the fact that I've hit most of you, but just in case, I want everybody to get in the habit of looking onto EMS online. There seems to be a lag time, and we've discovered over the last couple of weeks, several people that their information on their trifold or their little sheet is not getting to Medic One, and the information isn't jiving. So that little sheet that you have doesn't mean anything. They're not going to renew off of that sheet. They're going to renew what they can see on EMS online. That's the mother load. So that's the one that counts. So please make sure that if your information isn't being reflected properly that you have on your sheet compared to what Medic One has, make sure that you're taking a copy of that, like your phone, take a picture of it, send it to me, text it to me, email, whatever, so we can see what the discrepancy is, and I can advocate for you to get this changed, and they can research it. If you wait to the last minute, that takes time. It could delay you getting recerted, and you could lose your certification. This is ultimately your responsibility, not theirs. So make sure that you're aware of what's going on with your certification, and don't wait to the last minute. I noticed that there is also a few of you left that need to still go online. Even though the Jeff Hopeworm was optional for a practical, the mental health for professionals was not. You have to get online and do that. People are confused with the mental health and mental, there's two different mentals in there. So make sure that you've done both mentals, and then you're going to be covered. Again, the only thing down there that was optional was the practical for mental health providers. November 1st, you can renew for those people that are renewing. Again, though, you can't do it till November 1st. Once you renew, you'll get all of your original paperwork, your sheets, and your EMS online. You'll print it out. You'll sign the last sheet, which you'll say everything is true and correct. You'll give those all to me. I will then go it'll hit my database that you're asking to renew. I'll go in there and accept it, and I say, yes, this person is still with us, they're an active member in good standing, and they're with us. Then that will send over to the MPD and to Anna Lee. She'll tell the doc, yes, I have all their training records. They will do a pull of however, it's just a random check to make sure everything looks good, that they'll go through it a line by line where they'll actually pull records and see if the signatures are matching on the actual roster. The state does that, and your national registry will all do that. Everybody does these spot checks where they're more thorough than usual. So again, if that happens, instead of taking a 4 to 6 week, you're looking at 8 weeks. So try to get in as close to, as soon as you're done with your 4th quarter DFIB. I'll send out a couple announcements. We'll do an evening one and some daytime ones, and we'll do it sooner rather than later. And that way everybody can get renewed that needs to get renewed and not waste time. Okay? So there you go. Remember, you don't have to get your 4th quarter here. You just have to get your 4th quarter. It could be anywhere.
Thank you.